Millions of Europeans feel poorer than they did just a few years ago. They work the same hours. They earn more on paper. They live in countries that are officially rich. So why does life feel harder every single year? This isn't a story about poverty. It's a story about something disappearing quietly, the European middle class. And once you see how it happened, you'll understand why this problem won't fix itself. Europe looks fine. On paper. From the outside, Europe still looks like one of the most successful regions on Earth. GDP is stable. Employment rates are high. Most countries avoided deep recessions. Governments proudly announce wage growth and recovery plans. Compared to many parts of the world, Europe seems comfortable, orderly, and wealthy. But here's the problem. Macroeconomic success doesn't guarantee a good life. And Europe has mastered the art of looking healthy while slowly exhausting the people who keep the system running. The middle class was Europe's real engine. For decades, Europe's stability depended on one group, the middle class. Not the ultra-rich, not the very poor. The middle class paid taxes, bought homes, raised families, and believed that effort would be rewarded. They weren't rich, but they were secure. You could work a regular job, afford housing, take vacations, save something, and expect your children to live better than you did. That promise is now breaking. Not because Europe became poor, but because the rules that protected the middle class quietly changed. Wages went up, but life moved faster. One of the biggest illusions in modern Europe is wages. Yes, salaries increased. Politicians are technically telling the truth, but wages didn't increase enough. Housing costs exploded. Energy prices surged. Food became noticeably more expensive. Services followed. And unlike inflation spikes of the past, this time prices didn't come back down. So even when wages grow, they're chasing a moving target and losing. A raise that once meant progress now just slows the decline. Housing became the silent destroyer. Housing is where the middle class started losing the game. Across Europe, buying a home requires more years of income. Renting consumes a larger share of wages. Availability keeps shrinking. In many cities, the math simply doesn't work anymore. You can have a stable job and still delay starting a family, share apartments into your 30s, move further from work every year, or give up on ownership entirely. Housing didn't just get expensive. It broke the middle class contract. Europe didn't adapt. It aged. Another uncomfortable truth. Europe got older. An aging population means fewer workers supporting more retirees, higher taxes and social contributions, more pressure on healthcare and pensions. This burden falls directly on the middle class. They are expected to work longer, pay more, receive less later. And unlike the wealthy, they can't opt out. The system survives, but the people funding it feel trapped inside it. Taxes increased. Security. Didn't Europe is famous for high taxes? For decades, people accepted them because they delivered safety, stability, public services, predictable lives. But today, many middle-class Europeans are asking a dangerous question. What am I actually getting in return? Healthcare is overstretched. Education feels underfunded. Public transport is aging. Pensions look uncertain. The deal feels less balanced than it used to. Globalization. Change the game. Europe built its middle class in a very different world. A world where jobs were local. Industries were protected. Competition was slower. That world is gone. Today, European workers compete globally, but live locally. Wages are pressured by global markets. Costs are set by local realities. That gap is crushing the middle class. They face global competition with local prices. The psychological shift nobody talks about. This crisis isn't just economic, it's psychological. People don't feel poor, they feel stuck. No clear progress, no sense of moving forward. Just constant maintenance. Paycheck to paycheck, even with decent salaries. This creates quiet frustration, not rebellion, and quiet frustration is far more dangerous in the long run. Why this isn't a temporary crisis. Many hope this is temporary, that inflation will fall, that wages will catch up, that things will normalize. But normalization requires something Europe hasn't delivered yet: structural change. Without housing reform, productivity growth, tax rebalancing, real wage growth, the middle class doesn't recover, it slowly shrinks. The new divide isn't rich versus poor. The real divide today isn't rich versus poor. It's asset owners versus workers, insiders versus outsiders, people who bought early versus people locked out. Those who own property benefit from rising prices. Those who don't fall further behind every year. That gap is now defining European society. Why Europe feels worse, even when it isn't. This explains the contradiction. Why Europe can look stable while people feel exhausted. Why governments report success while households feel anxious. Why life feels harder even without a visible collapse. Europe didn't get poorer, but the middle class lost the protections that once made life predictable. Can this be fixed? Yes, but not easily. Fixing this requires choices that are politically uncomfortable. Building more housing, reforming taxes, rethinking pensions, accepting slower growth in some areas. It means admitting that the old model no longer works, and that's something European politics struggles to do. The real risk ahead. The real danger isn't poverty, it's disillusionment. When the middle class stops believing that effort leads somewhere, societies change. Quietly at first, then suddenly. And Europe is already entering the quiet phase. Europe didn't collapse, it didn't fail, it didn't suddenly become poor. It simply stopped working for the people who once made it stable. And until that changes, life will continue to feel harder, even in some of the richest countries on earth. Europe's problem isn't collapse, it's erosion. Nothing dramatic breaks, nothing officially fails. But year after year, the middle class loses ground. Quietly, invisibly, and almost politely. This is why so many people feel exhausted rather than outraged. They're not watching their world burn. They're watching it slowly slip out of reach. And unless Europe changes how it treats work, housing, and stability, this pressure won't explode overnight. It will simply keep squeezing, because Europe didn't get poor. It just stopped working for the people who once held it together.